Hello everybody, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. For this video, we're going to take an examination of the clicker or idle genre. What you're looking at right now is Cookie Clicker, a game that I'm sure none of you would have ever expected to appear on this channel, but this is perhaps the biggest example, at least recently, of the allure and what keeps people coming back to the clicker games. Now, I know these aren't quote unquote video games in the same vein as everything else on the channel, but this is still a very important lesson in game design for people to look at. And the reason is what makes the clicker genre so addicting. And that's the fact that these are essentially progression models unchained from everything else. The progression model of a game is essentially designed to keep you playing. And there are different variations of progression models. There is a simple beat a level, you move on to the next one. We see this in any action game, Mario, Devil May Cry, whatever. There are abstraction-based progression, which is essentially numbers and scale. And that is probably more addicting than anything else, and is what the clicker genre essentially distills down. Abstraction-based progression has been in everything from Farmville to World of Warcraft to any action RPG, or quite frankly almost every RPG ever made in the last 30 years has had an abstraction-based progression model. The reason why it works is that it gives the feeling of achievement without having to go add new design and new elements to it. And we're going to show that in this video. Now, I've been sitting here not looking at my little cookie shining, but abstraction-based progression models, and especially with the clicker genre in general, it's all about the abstraction and the scale growth. And if you want to know how this works so well, we're going to do that now. So, first thing, like any game ever made, the game, or I should say the clicker here, starts with you basically unable to do anything. Get some achievements going here. Achievements are another good part of the progression model. It gives you something to achieve. So to start with, I'm basically doing work. This is to show the early stages of the game. You see this in MMOs where you start, fighting rats or goblins or street thugs, stuff like that. So the first thing you unlock is something to actually get that progression going. So now, technically, I don't have to click. You can start to see the scale at work. Before, I had no cookies coming in. Now I'm having 1 cookie per second. And I can speed this up, as you can see here. Now, as we get more cookies, you can see things are starting to pop up on the right-hand side. And these things are explicitly designed to be the carrots on the stick, giving you something more to do, and more importantly, something new to achieve. Alright, we have an upgrade, so now our clicks are double, which means we are now making double the cookies in a single second. Do it again. These little bonuses actually serve a more insidious purpose for a cookie clicker. They force you to keep it on your screen. Normally with idle games you can take focus off or not have to worry about it or come back later. Not with cookie clicker. And you can see we got a lot of cookies coming in. Now you can see down here we also have 2 more goals to achieve in terms of these new items. And then as we're getting close to 1, a new one pops up. Again, this is to give you the carrot on the stick. So we'll get right here. And now we go from 16.8 to 72. Now watching these numbers go up, this is essentially RPG progression at its basics. You kill enemies to get more loot to make your numbers go up, so you can kill more enemies to get more loot to watch your numbers go up some more. And that's the same thing that we see here, just without all the gameplay or graphical fluff. And that's really what it is when you think about it. World of Warcraft, Diablo, of course Farmville, all these games are progression models just there. The progression model essentially is the engine of the car. And the gameplay and the graphics are really the outer, the frame of the car and the paint job. You're going to see that stuff first, but this is what's at the underlying level. And it works. When you have a really good progression model, it keeps someone playing because it always gives them something to do, something to go after. Diablo 3, you're really technically doing the same things 10 minutes into the game as you're doing 10,000 minutes in. You have more skills, you have greater loots, but all that is still just fed into that progression model of numbers. You're getting more numbers to kill enemies at higher numbers, so you get better loot that gets you, guess what, more numbers. And it's that scaling that makes the progression model work so well, because it allows you to extend it far easily compared to adding in new story elements or new mechanics and stuff like that. It's why MMOs love to get level cap raises with new expansions, because it gives you another thing to chase. And more importantly, it gives you something that you can visibly see that you can chase. In games like Cookie Clicker or Clicker Heroes, whatever, everything unlocks. It pops something else up on the screen. It gives you something else to go after, etc., etc. Now, if you look here, the scale of the costs, it gets progressively more, but so does the cost of unlocking these new things. We have upgrades here. Now, if we come over to the achievements, again, so many things to go after. For some reason, the game doesn't, I don't know, I think the game doesn't like Google Chrome all that much, or maybe it's just me. Now, a really good progression model, and when it works at its best, is when there is no, essentially, downtime. We see this in really good MMOs, where just as you're about done with a section of quests, you'll hit enough levels to go to the next section and get more levels and more quests and so on. And as you can see, and then they add in little achievements for you to go after here. And the upgrades are set to select intervals of items so that it raises the value, and more importantly, it essentially resets the scale. At this stage of the game, the farm will be the most profitable item for me to get. But if I get enough upgrades, the Grand Moss can become the most profitable, or maybe the cursor. And you can even sell one for an achievement. So now when I hit 10, let's see, another upgrade popped up. Now, as you're watching this, it's hard to tell, obviously, from where I'm sitting, if you're being hooked on, watching these numbers go up, because it worked. I was hooked on the clicker genre for a good year or so. I was playing this more than I was playing other games. But pure progression models like this come at a cost. And the cost is that once you lose the player, you cannot get them back, because there's simply nothing else here to keep someone engaged. And this is why game developers spend so much money putting that wrapper of gameplay and aesthetics around the progression model to keep you from basically peering behind the curtain. Because once you do, there's just nothing else there. Now, as you can see, as our amount of cookies are going up, we're seeing that scale of more and more items and more expensive items continue. Now, another part of the progression model, especially with the clicker genre, is with legacy or prestige bonuses. And if you've played Call of Duty, you know what a prestige bonus is. It's when you reset your character, your ranking, your level, to 0. You start over again, but you don't necessarily start back at scratch. Back at 0, you have nothing left. Instead, you start back with a unique advantage or a unique perk that's supposed to make it easier for you to go again. And you repeat this again and again and again, essentially with the same scales, but it will let you get through quicker, and in games like the clicker genre, it will let you get further. If you look over here, no, we don't want to ascend. You get heavenly chips in Cookie Clicker that are then applied. They'll give you I think a 5% bonus on all cookie production, and then you can unlock special upgrades. And this is the way of the game giving you a long-term goal. Okay, so again, we got this. So now we're going to hit the mine. And lo and behold, our cookies per second will now bounce up. Again, you're seeing these numbers go up, but nothing has changed. It's the same thing with MMOs. It's the same thing with RPGs. Now, I know what some of you may say, that you play MMOs for the social aspect or the story aspect, and that is legitimately fair. When I talked to a friend of mine, Jamie Madigan, we looked at the psychological motivators that keep you playing video games. And so the social aspect is a major part of it. But developers build their progression models around these kinds of abstraction and around these kinds of goals and achievements because it allows them to control the experience. They don't know if a game's going to basically catch on social-wise. So they design it every which way to hedge their bet on that matter. Another major part of the clicker genre and these kinds of progression models is the means to min and max. And this is another part that makes people like me get hooked on them, is that there's always something for you to look at to try and maximize your production. Make it, the most lean, the most productive as you can. Many clicker games go in different degrees of this. There is one that was all numerical, based on math, that you had to figure out the best ratio for everything. And it's just a way of giving some sense of structure to the fact that we're just clicking on things and watching numbers go up. So we are pretty far away from that. And you can see even the upgrades are working on that same kind of progression scale. We won't be hitting 9 million cookies in this video. I can guarantee you that. So as we upgrade their efficiency, you can see they're producing 24 cookies per second. This is producing 32. This is producing 188. And we can double and double and double and so on. And yes, if I wanted to, I could just sit here and click like a madman. And if that's not enough, we have the achievements down here to keep us going. And the achievements also raise your milk rank, which in turn also gives you unique bonuses. So until we get to 1,000,000,000,000 cookies, we won't be able to ascend and get the heavenly chip. And that's basically where you start with prestige. Once you get that first one, you then want to use that, restart, and again, it's going to be quicker the second time. And then you're going to go a little bit further, get another chip or two. Then you're going to ascend again, restart, and it's going to go quicker and quicker. But at the same time, you're still spending about the same length or maybe even more on each run because you're now getting farther. So we can keep going. And again, we could sit here, all damn day and play this. Now I'm trying to think if there's any major elements that I miss with the clicker and with these kind of progression models. And as I said, the gameplay really is just the wrapper for all this. Whether you're playing MMOs, whatever. Now, part of what makes progression models interesting and at the same time challenging for the game developer is they have to figure out the best rate of growing it, because you need to keep that progression going. Even a game like Minecraft does it as well. Maybe a game that has a simple outer layer, but it works on the same principle. You start punching trees for lumber, and later you'll be mining, creating expensive gear, well, expensive in the terms of higher quality, which lets you do things better. As an interesting aside, an example when the progression model doesn't work, Don't Starve, I think, sort of missed the point of this kind of progression model. What makes these things work is that sense of scale, that you're no longer doing the basic stuff, you have more to do, or things are growing. The problem with Don't Starve is that it always relied on you having to farm basically tier 1 resources. Now, I don't know if they changed that with the later expansions or patches, but the problem with that is in order for progression to work, it needs to show some kind of change. You may still be doing the same things, but you may be doing them better or faster, or again, higher numbers to make other numbers go down. Now, as we've been watching here, again, we've been getting close to the next upgrade, so lo and behold, let me get over here. It shows up here letting us know what it is, and now we saw these two mystery items. Even one of my favorite games, Payday 2, works on this kind of thing with the infamy system. Every time you go up an infamy level, you go back to 0, but you get an experience bonus to make that climb quicker. And that's the key point behind these prestige systems, or I think we can just call them prestige, I think, for right now. Or, I think that's it, is the fact that you just keep going, and there's always that little bit of a difference to make it better or make it quicker. And with that sense of scale, now with Cookie Clicker, it works by you're getting better stuff, quote unquote. In RPGs, it works by increasing the enemy threat. Again, in the start, you fight rats and goblins. By the end, you're fighting, elder gods and giant monsters and rulers and all that. I mean, this works. It has worked, I should say, really well. So many games have worked on this. And again, with the beauty of RPGs is because the abstraction is the gameplay, the progression model is just tied so well to that. And again, it lets you do more with extending the gameplay simply by just raising numbers. You see this with a lot of older RPGs where they'll just reuse enemy models, but maybe they'll color them, blue instead of red, but now he has 500 more attack points or 10,000 more health. But that, I think, is about it. Again, these kinds of progression models work so well because of that psychological hook of progression. You're going for new things, which will let you do more things. And your cookies per second up there is your progression bar, your experience. So again, we're about to hit 130,000. We'll get this. That will raise this up even more. And then I think we will stop. We are very, very far away from that 1 trillion, aren't we? And let's see. 320 becomes 580. And again, this is where the scale goes. Every time I get something new, it will act a lot better than what that is, than the previous ones. But eventually, through upgrades, those lower level ones will become the bigger earners, essentially reshuffling the progression scale. It's supposed to give you that illusion that you're changing things and things are growing, but all it is just essentially double backing on itself or folding over itself. And just like with RPGs, now that we have 580 cookies per second, these lower things, I can click them and it's not going to do anything because we have more coming in. It's the same sense of when you go back to an older area in an RPG where you're, 20 levels above the enemies and you can kill them immediately. And of course, by doing this, we've unlocked more upgrades we can purchase eventually. Let me see. So we have these upgrades going. Another interesting part of the clicker games is they give you these very long-term upgrades that you can purchase. They don't do much in the early game, but they'll eventually mean a lot later on. Like this. You gain plus 0.1 cookies for each non-cursor object. Now, right now, that doesn't really mean much. But let's say in 5 hours from now, when we got all kinds of stuff down here, that will give us a huge boost. And it's another way for players who get into this to min and max. But according to our little clock here, we've been doing this for 26 minutes. I think it's time to wrap it up. So in conclusion, these progression models work in any abstraction-based game, and they work to keep people coming back to playing them. But again, when you're playing a pure progression model like Cookie Clicker, Clicker Heroes, or any other idle clicker game you can think of, there's no wrapper to it, which means that once you stop caring about it, once it becomes a grind, you're basically going to stop and you won't be coming back. And what game designers have been trying to figure out is to keep that progression model at the forefront without you getting tired of it. And that includes giving new story chains, having a new weapon reward on level up. Guild Wars 2, for instance, every time you leveled up, gave you some kind of a new reward, something to shoot for, and something to keep you playing that progression chain. But if you have any questions about these kinds of progression models, or want to know about other games or other ideas, definitely let me know in the comments below. So right now I'm going to click this for the 100,000. See, we got a decent number, but now every time we buy a new object, it's going to be worth more because we're getting this plus this. But again, we're going to end things here because obviously with these progression models we could sit here all damn day and do them because that's what they're designed for. So if you, I'm not sure if you really enjoy the video as much as my other ones, but if you like the little lesson, be sure to share with your friends, leave a comment, of course, like and subscribe to the channel. Check out game-wisdom.com where I examine the art and science of games. And don't worry, there'll be more. I won't be examining more clicker games there. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter under GW Bycer to get the latest updates when content goes live. And you can find me on Patreon under Game Wisdom. And donations will be greatly appreciated. They will allow me to keep doing what I'm doing, which, trust me, will not be playing this game. And I'll be able to add more great content for you all to enjoy, including more videos, streams, and podcasts. So, I will be once again quitting our little bakery here. Be sure to tune into the channel with more daily content and more variety of content other than this real soon. Anyway, thanks again for watching.